All right, guys, we're live. Happy Friday. Today is Friday someday, May-ish. I get confused right now. I am with the very patient, very flexible, very talented. You're going to love him if you don't know him already. Mr. Dwight Bain. Do I say it? Did I do it? Did I do it right? I even got your website
You
up there. I hope that's right,
you
Dwight.
you did it right, and I'm happy to be here, pandemic or not. Ted, I'm glad to be with you. I'm glad to be with your viewers, your listeners, because in these very scary times, we need to remember something that Uncle Walt taught. Because when I was growing up, everybody just called him America's favorite uncle. And Walt Disney constantly faced financial problems, constantly faced, creditors, banks trying to shut him down. And the weirdest thing, the more pressure they put on the outside, the more creative Walt got on the inside. That's how to find success in the middle of a storm. We're going to talk about that today.
I love that you went right into, we're going to talk about it. You're the host with the most. I mean, you literally just could listen. I could close my eyes. I'm listening to the radio. You have a great presence. You have a great story. So as I'm going to share this a little bit with a couple other platforms, I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, because I guess it was the easiest place to go back to is pre-Disney. I grew up here in Orlando, and I had wonderful parents, but they didn't have the benefit of a high school education or college. So we did this amazing thing every week. We went to the Orange County Public Library downtown near Lake Eola, and it was absolutely my favorite thing. And I always wanted to be a counselor on the radio, because they listened to a counselor on the radio about parenting tips because they were young parents. So growing up in Orlando pre-Disney and just loving Central Florida, but like a lot of people, really loving helping folks figure it out. I actually wrote a book about it. It's called Destination Success. And it was a map to guide out an individual from stress to success, and then on toward greater significance, because I've just seen so many people in difficult times get better. And that's what we want your listeners and viewers to be able to experience, Ted.
How did you take that, though? I mean, it's one thing to listen, to enjoy, to want to be a counselor on the radio, to actually doing it. You had a lot of schooling and a lot of years and a lot of business in between. What was that like? Tell us about the impetus to finally taking what you thought would be your passion and making it your passion. And then you really exploded. You have books, people watch you on television. You're an expert in, well, certainly a couple people have said it, calming people down. You have a very calming voice and presence. But please talk about that, because it's one thing to have the dream. It's another thing to realize it.
Yeah, it really is. And thanks for the opportunity to say that, because what guided me was something called mentors. They can get mentors two ways, Ted. You can get mentors by having great people in your life. For me, a guy named Pat Williams, who started the Orlando Magic, became a wonderful mentor and friend. A retired Presbyterian pastor named Steve Brown, who is the host of something called Key Life Network.
He's got
this really deep voice, and Steve says, you think about that. And to have him as a mentor, and a fellow named John Maxwell, who's a business writer, and Elmer Towns, who started the largest faith-based organization of higher learning in the world, Liberty University. So I had these different guys in my life who I just asked them something that I wish more people would do. I said, could you mentor me? Because you seem to be really good at what you do. But remember, I said, there's two ways. That looked like Richard Nixon, didn't it? Yeah. Okay. There's two ways to be able to be mentored. One is to have amazing, remarkable friends. And I'll tell you, Ted, most people actually don't have that. I'm so blessed. That's why I'm sitting here with you right now on your show. But the other way to be mentored is through books. And even though you may not know Stephen King, one of the people, I don't, but he's one of the people that mentored me as a writer, as an author. He writes horror. And if you follow his genre, you know that he has one book, and it's about writing, because he went to college out of his very broken, painful childhood. He went to college to become a middle school English teacher, grammar and English. And so he wrote a book called On Writing. That first half is autobiographical. And when you read it, you'll go, I know why this guy and the horrors that he lived through, I know why he writes horror. Wow. But the second half is how to be a better communicator. So you can be mentored through books. And one of the things I love in that book, Stephen King says, I don't know where on the timeline, he writes this in the late 1990s. He said, I don't know where on the timeline you and I will meet, but I know this, if you'll write this way, people will connect and people will stay together. So Ted, you've got to have mentors in your life. And it's almost an unfair advantage. You know, when you look at what's happening with all the changes in our culture, the people that have the best coaches, that have the best resources, the celebrities, the CEOs, they have coaches and they have people in their life to say, do this, don't do that. They have mentors, people pouring into their life. And so what happens is they get better, quicker, faster, stronger. And other people keep creating the same mistakes because they're not learning either by having a personal mentor in your life or by sitting down and having the most valuable card. I have it right here in my wallet. And you're thinking, oh, is he going to pull out a titanium card? No.
We're going to watch.
More valuable than that, because reaching into this card is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I use it every single week.
Public library. I love it.
This was the library of the year in 2018.
Was it really? I didn't know that.
Orange County Public Library. I've been going there since I was a kid. I go almost every week of my life. And now I'm just an advocate because our public library, a lot of people, Ted, are going through job change or fear. And they'll say, what am I going to do? In the 2008 recession, our public library with tax dollars reinvented the second floor of the downtown public library near Lake Eola, the one I went to as a kid, same building. And they redid the entire second floor and they redid it for career repurposing. Our library, through 15 branches, offers over 900 free FREE classes on career repurposing every month. It's absolutely free. I take these classes, HTML, how to do JavaScript, how to learn a foreign language. Each of these are 1-hour courses, and I go take them. But I'm excited to tell you, it's really cool. And if you have a library card, it's free. And the part I'm not excited to tell you is they won't do a class unless there's 3 people. And almost always, that's how many people are in the class. If you want to do PowerPoint, that will just soar. If you want to gain the skill set with Microsoft Excel or Outlook, you want somebody to instruct you who's probably a Rollins professor doing this on the side. It's right there. It's absolutely free. It's available at your local library.
And I love that. I just recently got my library card back about a year ago. And we did some things on the second floor or third floor where that all of the you can go in, guys. If you have a library card, you can do a show like this. There are rooms for you to do social media, and you just have to book the time out as a library patron. And it's amazing what is physically there that you forget. And also, you guys are used to looking everything up on Google or YouTube. If you want to video it, why not look it up at your public library and get some local people who really know what they're talking about and can give you some instruction. I think that's a great idea because you're right. People, Dwight, I feel like people want mentors. They don't know how to ask. And then I feel like people want to be mentors, but they still have that competitive versus collaborative mindset. So talk about a little bit about that. What's the best way for somebody to approach a mentor? And then what's the best way for a mentor to put it out there that I want to mentor someone?
Well, it's a great question. It's a great point because sometimes because I'm a public person, a media personality, people in different parts of the country, and they'll say, oh, wow, I want you to mentor me. I had somebody just last week from the Philippines who said, I want you to mentor me. Right. And I want you to think Kevin Bacon game, right? Six degrees of separation. If somebody is absolutely, they're just not in my circle. In other words, I don't know them. They don't know me. I don't know them, all of that. Okay, well, that's a bit much. It's like asking, somebody for a date. If you happen to be at an event, you see Gwyneth Paltrow at a table, and you go over and say, Gwen, I have always thought you're amazing. Marry me. I don't think it's going to go that well. I think security might help you find the door.
So true.
you look at your circles. And this is one of the things I love about something called LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com is owned by Microsoft, and it's really Facebook for people that want better careers. In my industry, in behavioral health, LinkedIn ranks your profile, and they say that I'm in the top 1% of behavioral health profiles globally. And I love meeting people. Today, I met over a dozen individuals after a training event. And so here's the point about a mentor. You start a relationship, you start a conversation. It's interesting. My friend Pat Williams has written 154 books, and he's very public about the fact that he has a writing partner named Jim Denny. Now, here's a Pat Williams story that you don't know, and why I think we all love Pat so much. He's very open, and Jim's name is on every single cover of those books that he's worked as a collaborative writer. But Pat Williams has only met Jim Denny one time, un tiempo. And he met him once 25 years ago at an event, and Jim came up and handed him a business card and said, hey, I'm a collaborative writer if you ever need help. And Pat's collaborative writer was working on a movie project and said, I can't help you anymore. And so it was, kind of disturbing. And Pat said, okay, great. Thanks for your card. And now about, 70 books together later, Pat's only met him one time. They talk on the telephone, they talk electronically, but here's the point. Your network is your net worth in times of major career change. And that's why I love it when people connect on LinkedIn, or they'll go out of their way. So it's not just in some circles in the nonprofit world, they'll say it's the ask. Please, for many years, Ted, I was on PBS as a television host. And of course, PBS stands for the Poor Broadcasting Network. We were always asking for money. Please send us money. We'll send you Bert and Ernie, not the hand puppets. We'll send you the real Bert and Ernie. Just keep us on the air. Congress cut our funding, please.
I love it.
But the ask, you don't do the ask unless you have a relationship. And so if somebody says, I want a mentor, I want to be mentored by this political leader. I want to be mentored by LeBron. I want to be mentored by Kim Kardashian in social media. Kevin Bacon, 6 degrees of separation. So build a relationship, because this person knows this person knows this person knows this person knows this person. And pretty soon you're talking to Kim Kardashian, if that's your goal. And I think if anything, Ted, the 6 degrees of separation because of LinkedIn, and because of other types of social media, but LinkedIn is more business focused. I think that's why people don't need 6 degrees of separation. And I've seen this happen for many, many years in my world of executive coaching. People that I would have never met before, but because of that LinkedIn platform, it allows you to connect very quickly. And remember the principle, network, your business network, your contact list really is your net worth in terms of your social capital in the marketplace. And the higher that is, the greater opportunity you will have.
I agree. I've used LinkedIn is amazing. We're LinkedIn Live right now. I've got the platform from LinkedIn. And so we're live across these platforms. But I think LinkedIn is an untapped gold mine. If you use it correctly, you set your profile up correctly, watch the experts who have connections that are constantly engaging. You really have to work at it. It's like anything else. You have to work at it. You can't just put your profile up and think you're going to be Dwight Bain all over again. I mean, it's not how it works. You have to put time in, and you have to engage people, because that is a place where people don't put up with the fake at all. And so you have to be your authentic self if you're going to network there, and you have to have a real reason and a real purpose when you're reaching out to people. So Dwight's 100,000% correct. LinkedIn's amazing. I have to ask you, the title of the show is Success is a Way of Life. And I think a lot of people right now are questioning, am I successful? Is this my way of life? Like, what is happening with the pandemic? It's just challenged a lot of people on new ways that none of us have ever experienced before, since this is unprecedented. So what can you help people with on the success side? How can they maneuver through what they have in this particular market differently, looking for opportunities, and be successful and make it a way of life, like you suggest in the title?
Well, thanks for the opportunity to comment on that, because here's what's going to happen through the coronavirus, through the pandemic, which will go on for many, many months until there is a vaccine. Remember, pre-COVID, 60% of the people in the United States went to a job they didn't really like, but it paid the bills, it made rent. So here's what's going to happen. There's going to be an entrepreneurial spirit. And entrepreneurs are going to rise up because in the middle of a crisis, some people get really scared and they hide under the bed and they feel afraid to try. And other people go, you know, what do we have to lose? And they get creative in a crisis. That's why in the 2008 recession, that's when Uber and Lyft and Airbnb, that's when Elon Musk started to invent stuff. That's when Mark Cuban said, you know, I think that there's some new opportunities here. Jeff Bezos. Why do we remember those names? Because the economic downturn for everybody else was an upswing for them. How do you do that? You need to be very clear, because when people say, well, how do I find my purpose? You're not going to find that in a book. And I know that there are lots of books about that. You're going to find your purpose, watch this, by following your passion. You are gifted, my friend. You're gifted in something. You have interests, talents, abilities, gift. You have a unique design. The most popular course at Stanford MBA program is about design. And it's done by two engineers who used to work at Apple and EA Sports, or not EA Sports, but EA Electronic Arts video game design. And they said, if every human could figure out design like we teach video gamers and electronic design, because every human has a design. Now, engineers, my favorite engineering joke, you know, is the glass half full or half empty? No, you got the wrong size glass, right? Being able to know, engineers see life a certain way, but every single person has a design. So when you can track your interest, things you're passionate about, things you would do for free, because it's just that, it makes you curious. That was a Walt Disney advantage. He was always curious, even though he was, until the last 10 years of his life or so, he was really broke, but he was always curious. He went bankrupt many times, but he was always curious. If people can find that curiosity, remember the passion, and that's the trail that we follow. That's the path to your greater purpose. And when an individual is able to say, you know, this job isn't that fulfilling, and I want people to pay attention, don't be reckless. You need to know what your own risk aversion is. If you know, here's the debt ratio that we have on this house, and here's the amount that we have on our mortgage, then don't decide you want to go, you know, buy a popsicle truck and sell ice cream in the neighborhood because you've always wanted to do that until you have replacement income. Now, I love the popsicle man. I heard, you know, when the neighborhood, everything was shut down, it's like, there's a popsicle man.
I know.
Where's a quarter? And my wife reminded me it's $2.50. It's like,
yeah,
okay, well,
it's not a quarter anymore, my friend.
I love the popsicle man. So you look at the risk, you look at the responsibilities in your life. If you have, you know, student loan debt or you have kids, you can't just run off and join the circus, but you can do this. You can track your purpose by following your passion, your interest, your creativity. And then you structure things to deal with the financial part. And that's when you can look at a risk. And I'll tell you the risk-free way to do it, Ted. And the risk-free way is to become a volunteer. If you know you absolutely love working with animals, good, go volunteer at the Merritt Island National Wildlife Reserve. Find a place to volunteer doing something you just love to do. It gives you a chance to build experience. You can put that on your LinkedIn profile, but it also will give you a reason to get up in the morning. When people go to jobs they hate, it hurts their health. The most common time that people will have heart attacks is Monday morning. Now, even though that's anecdotal, we know that's when people have the most heart attacks. And the thought is either one of two things. It's either they overextended over the weekend and they overexerted, which makes sense, or maybe they're going to a job that they hate. Ted, I can tell you this. People don't quit jobs. They quit bosses. And after we come out of this time of pandemic, a lot of people will change bosses and they'll go find something more meaningful. That's why the better leaders, they'll get the best employees in the future and their companies will grow stronger because of it.
I agree. I think that is all true. I feel like people don't leave. I know people don't leave the company. They don't leave the job. They leave the management. It's so critical, the leadership. We talk about culture all the time on the show and how critical it is to establish the foundation of your culture and what your environment should be and what you want it to be so that you can hire the people that make sense for your culture rather than bringing in a whole bunch of people who don't align with what you're trying to accomplish. So I agree. I think people are reevaluating, what am I doing here? And if I can do this from home, can I do something else from home? Can I try something different? And I think it's really enlightened people to the opportunities that technology presents, and the fact that they're not so tied to that one office and cubicle as much as they thought they were going to be. And I
Yeah,
think it gave people hope. I feel like people are, I know it's crazy if you're furloughed or you got let go, but I still talk to those people all the time too. They're hopeful about what's coming up. Most of them are excited about, okay, so clean slate. What am I doing now?
that's
So I
exactly right.
love that approach.
Well, what I was going to tell you is a friend of mine yesterday was laid off from a job where he had managers who were constantly taking credit, stealing sales, doing things. And he sent me a text and said, well, they laid me off. And I sent back and said, are you okay? And he went, they were so terrible to me. He said, I've got a 2-month severance package and they were so awful. It's almost like they did me a favor because now I've got 2 months to land the next gig and I know I'll be okay. And so sometimes when you look at a situation that somebody kicked you out of, ha ha ha, we got rid of you. And you look at it and think, I was just waiting for the universe to hand me an opportunity. Yes. Here it is. And there's a guy whose parents got married. Here's a great story, Ted. Most people don't know this. Walt Disney's parents got married in between Eustis and Mount Dora. They were the first couple to file a marriage license in January 1, 1988. Mosquito County, all of Central Florida, aptly named. Mosquito County was split up by the Florida legislature into multiple counties: Orange, Seminole, Lake, Brevard, Polk. And the first couple to file for a marriage license in Lake County were Elias and Flora Call Disney. Her family were all from Eustis. And so when you look at that and you say, well, that's kind of interesting. Now, here's the part that's super interesting, because when I think about reinventing, there was a citrus failure. Her family had citrus farms. That's why Elias Disney moved here. And that citrus failure moved them. Walt was born in Chicago. And then eventually that led to move again to Marceline, Kansas, where Walt Disney was a boy and said it was the happiest time of his life. So Main Street, USA, at every Disney park flowed out of a couple that got married in Central Florida, but the great freeze of 1889 drove them to find work. They reinvented, and that cool story would not have happened except Walt's aunts and some of his cousins would send him art supplies because his dad did not manage money wisely. And they would send art supplies to little Walt Disney in Marceline, Kansas, and Kansas City. Walt got fired from his first job. They said, you have no creative talent. And he told his brother Roy, we may as well go to California. I hear they're making movies. And some people right now, Ted, they're getting fired from a boss who later says, I knew that guy. I fired him. I was the goofball who fired that guy because he does have talent. He does have creativity. Getting fired made Walt Disney better. And maybe it'll make some of your viewers better too.
I agree. I love that story. I did not know that story about them and the wedding, the marriage certificate. That's so cool. I didn't realize he had roots here. I guess I should do my research a little better. That's so awesome. All right. So any parting words of wisdom for them? I mean, I think people are still in their own way. They're struggling, even though there's opportunity. Any parting words of wisdom for them? Anything you want to leave them? You know, you're the coach guru, you're the author guru. You have so much great insight. You all have to check Dwight out and all of the resources that he has out there. But anything you can leave them with?
I sure would. Yeah, I've read, and I told you, I'm a big fan of the library. Go there all the time. I read 1 to 2 books a week. I've read over 5,000 books. And there's an old poem. 2 men looked through prison bars. One saw the mud, the other saw the stars. And it reminds me of Nelson Mandela, who was locked up in a prison for 27 years. He was given 30 minutes a year to be able to talk to a friend or family if they felt like it. But locked up in a prison, he saw the stars. I don't know what you're going through right now, but I know this. You can either look down at the despair of the circumstance, or you can look up and say, there's a way to reinvent. There's a way for me to get better. There's a way for me to be able to go online and take classes at lynda.com, a LinkedIn company. And you can get lynda.com for free if you go through with your library card and you go through the library portal $20 a month of the best career trainers in the world, absolutely free from your library. So if you're looking down, hey, look up. We're going to make Central Florida a better place. And I believe one of the ways we can do it is to start at the Orange County Public Library. I'll see you there.
I love that you plugged the library today. That's phenomenal. That's why I don't do any real research or don't ask anybody anything, because it's like I have no idea what the agenda is going to be. But what a perfect agenda that we have not talked about on the show before. And so it's so important, guys. It's so easy to get your library card. I did all of mine this time through the mail. I didn't have to set foot in there, and I still haven't, because I got it right before COVID hit. Again, but the second time but they make it very, 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 very easy to get a library card. Dwight Bain, you're amazing. That was so good and so informative and so motivational. And just so you know, when I close my eyes, sometimes at the very end, when you end a sentence, you do sound like Steve Brown.
Wow. You think about I'm on my best day. You think about that, Ted. You just made my day. You made my day. You made my weekend.
Honest to God, I love to listen to him, mostly for the intonation in his voice, and you can tell he is pretty funny. But anyway, thank you so much, Dwight Bain. Dwight Bain is on lifeworksgroup.org. You can reach him on social media. 6 Degrees, Orlando Public Library, Orange County Public Library. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dwight Bain. You're a joy.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much. Reach out to look at all of the books that he has already authored himself, and make sure you check out the public library.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys.